What is up everyone, welcome back to another top 10 video. This week we're counting down the top 10 plays of Stage 1. Considering how things began, it is remarkable to see the increase in the level of competition across just the first 5 weeks of the Overwatch League alone. Certainly an argument can be made for the fact that a lot of teams were still finding their groove early on, many were still learning strategies together, and most were doing their best to prepare for the limited map pool that would be present throughout all of Stage 1. All expectations were thrown out the window from the second week onwards, however. As you'll see with this list, an uptick in the level of competition leads to dramatically more imposing plays across the board. With that, let's jump into our top 10 plays of Stage 1. Starting us off at number 10 is arguably the most impressive play out of Dallas Fuel in all of Stage 1. After both the San Francisco and Dallas teams pushed the payload through the entirety of Eichenwald, Dallas had to defend the very first tick on point A for just under 4 minutes in order to simply draw the first map of the series. And that's exactly what they did thanks to a few stylish plays from none other than Effect on the McCree. To start, Effect picks Baby Bay out of the sky and forces the Valkyrie out of DAC. Having now charged his ult, Effect pops his Deadeye because he knows that the damage is enough to pick up a few kills despite the Transcendence in play by Sleepy. Picking up 3 huge kills with the Deadeye and then another right after, in the penultimate teamfight of this map, Effect essentially seals the deal and enables Dallas to go on an entire map that should have quite easily gone in favor of the San Francisco Shock. Coming in at number 9, we have Carpe on the Widow and what was the last match in the series between the San Francisco Shock and the Philadelphia Fusion. Now this isn't to say that Carpe doesn't get any credit, he certainly does, but it's hard to deny that he is one of the more underrated DPS players in the league and certainly one of the more impressively accurate Widowmakers. As we see in this play, Carpe essentially just styles all over the backline of the San Francisco Shock. First taking out Baby Bay in the Widow duel, grappling just high enough to rotate 180 degrees and perfectly snipe DAC out of the air with a beautifully timed headshot whilst he was in Moth mode. Just to add insult to injury, he then picks off Baby Bay again with a simple flick of the wrist, eventually drops down to find Dante, and that's that. Supremely impressive Widowmaker action out of Carpe. In our 8th spot we have Dreamcasper and his absurd accuracy on Pharah. Initially on this fight we can see that Agilities actually lands the first direct hit of the battle. Thanks to Kellex, Dreamcasper is actually kept alive through the initial burst of Agility's rocket barrage, which he then proceeds to shut down with 2 quick rockets to the face of the immobile target. Now here is where this play truly gets wild. Verbo just popped his Valkyrie and manages to rapidly resurrect Agilities, but is then immediately swatted out of the sky with a direct hit. Continuing this streak of direct impact hits, Dreamcasper somehow manages to land 2 more onto Agilities, and I mean, what more can you really say about him? Arguably the most impressive Pharah play of Stage 1. His sheer inability to miss whilst also avoiding all forms of potentially lethal damage is second to none, and that's why it's in our 8th spot on the list. In at number 7 is Prophet asserting himself as one of the top Junkrats in the league. Obviously it's difficult to argue against Jake's ability to destabilize any opposition with his capabilities on Junkrat, but no one in the league is more efficient with the Riptire than this man right here. Up 2-0 against the Dallas Fuel, Prophet is able to find the perfect Riptire to further demoralize the boys in blue. Having recognized or been informed of the positioning of the opposition, a rare push wherein the attacking team actually takes control of the middle point of the map. This was a fight that on paper, the Dallas squad should have won given their tremendous ult advantage, but Prophet brings the crowd to life with this incredibly placed Riptire. Taking it across the rooftops of the structures in Oasis, he drops into an unsuspecting Dallas team and is able to pick off both healers as well as Effect. A tremendous play from Prophet.
Nobody saw that one coming. That was crazy.
In our 6th spot on the list, we have the best glimpse of what the Shanghai team is able to pull off when they're at the top of their game. Against the top seeded team in Stage 1, the lowest ranked team in the league, whilst inevitably dropping the series, did show up big time at the start of the 3rd map on Oasis. Firstly, in a teamfight where the Dragons have already lost their Mercy, Undead is able to take out Pine with a well-timed flash and 2 precise shots to the dome. But he's only just starting to put that revolver to work. He fails to miss a shot onto Mano and continues that insane accuracy when taking out Arc and Meko. I hold this play in high regard simply due to the fact that the disparity in the level of competition should be taken into consideration. If this play were the other way around, everyone would be heaping praise onto Pine or Liberer for styling yet again. Sure, they haven't picked up a series win yet, but the Shanghai squad have certainly proven time and again that they are capable of greatness, as demonstrated with this play from Undead. Coming in at number 5, we have what is undoubtedly the most effective pulse bomb in all of Stage 1. There were definitely more flashy and more stylish pulse bombs throughout the first 5 weeks of competition, but none were able to trump Striker as he puts 4 members of the Dallas Fuel in the ground. This angle doesn't necessarily do it justice, but we can clearly see here what the Dallas Fuel were trying to pull off. Having Effect swap over to the Reaper, then bottling up into the left hand side of the map in an attempt to rush the point and swiftly end the round. Boston recognized this and called it out so that Striker could quickly enter the room, drop a little pulse bomb between the entire team, and come away with 4 huge kills. A single ultimate shut down the entire offense of the Dallas Fuel, even though Custer had his Transcendence ready to go. Dallas Fuel just weren't expecting it, and who can blame them? A great play out of Striker in our 5th spot. In at number 4, who could forget about Poco? Whilst he missed a few games here and there, and as the Philadelphia Fusion began to fall further down the standings as Stage 1 progressed, let's not fail to recognize just how impressive this team looked throughout the first fortnight of competition. Poco was undeniably the master of the Diva Bomb throughout the early phase of Stage 1, proving time and again that his precision was unparalleled, having put countless hours into practicing various spots to launch the mech across all maps. Whilst this isn't one of those times, it helps contextualize just how deadly Poco can be on the Diva. It was a superbly timed grab on behalf of Shadowburn, a player primarily known for his DPS capabilities, that set up the staggering Diva Bomb from Poco. Overall, this is one of the most effective grabs we saw throughout Stage 1, comboed with a Diva Bomb to seal the deal and efficiently win the teamfight for Philadelphia Fusion. Pine makes his Widowmaker skills known in our 3rd spot on the list. In the most important series in all of Stage 1, Big Boss Pine shows up big time to thwart an attack from the London Spitfire, an attack wherein Spitfire actually had quite a significant ult economy built up. From this unsuspecting angle, it truly doesn't seem as though Pine is capable of hitting shots that would wipe out the backline of London, but in typical Pine fashion, he does the unthinkable and flicks the last 2 shots to win the teamfight. Now typically the way this engagement should have progressed is that Pine picks up the first kill and then, sure, maybe he goes on to get Birdring as well, then any ordinarily conservative Widowmaker would grapple to safety and go back to be with their team. Or if they were unable to make it away, the Spitfire offense would quickly peel back to take out the flanker in their unfavourable position. You can actually see that London did indeed halt their attack and completely turned around to deal with Pine, but it didn't matter. He was still able to connect with the shots that mattered most and still able to single-handedly win a pivotal teamfight for NYXL. Absolutely devastating play from Pine. Our 2nd spot on the list is actually a first for our channel because it marks the first tie for a position on the top 10 list. I always want to be as decisive as possible, hence why this isn't a top 50 plays from Stage 1, which it very easily could have been with the sheer enormity of my initial list. That being said, I knew that I never truly wanted to have 2 different plays tied in any position. Due to the vast number of variables, it's almost a certainty that no 2 engagements will ever be precisely identical, thus some plays in one way or another do indeed outweigh others. Now to entirely contradict all that I just said, our 2nd spot is a tie between 2 Riptires from Prophet, both from the final day of competition, both in the playoffs, both to secure a map win, and both to secure a series win. In sequential order, the first tire was on the 4th map of the playoff series between the Houston Outlaws and the London Spitfire. The Outlaws had a great defense, almost fully holding the first point, but eventually stopping the payload just short of reaching the doors to the castle on Eichenwald. In return, the London team displayed an even more effective first point hold. In their final push onto the point and what proved to be their final attack in all of Stage 1, the Outlaws started off strong, taking out the Mercy on the side of London and even picking off Gesture to boot. The push came to a screeching halt with a single ultimate, however, as Prophet sent his tire sky high and managed to find both Barney and Jake hidden away. This huge play all but secured the teamfight win for London and thus secured the spot in their grand final matchup against NYXL. Speaking of the grand finals, however, the 2nd play from Prophet was equally as significant though slightly less flashy. With the series tied up 2-2, whoever pushed the payload the furthest on Dorado would walk away as the champions of Stage 1. With context in mind, it is easy to comprehend just how pivotal this tie from Prophet really was. In the very final push from NYXL, Prophet is able to take out Arc just as he is reaching the location of the payload, with his Resurrect ability ready to pick someone back up and potentially swing the motion of the teamfight in favor of New York. Shutting the push down entirely, Prophet proved to be the king of the Riptide throughout Stage 1 as it was his plays against both Houston and New York that secured the playoff wins for London and secured the number 2 spot in our list. Coming in at number 1, it really couldn't be anything other than Pine's explosive presence on Ilios in Week 1. It was the performance of the stage and the performance that had everyone around the world talking and theorizing about just how any team could possibly shut him down. He schooled the Houston Outlaws earlier and then went on to obliterate Boston in what was undeniably the single most dominant performance of any DPS player in the league to date. Whilst Pine was impressive all throughout his first 2 showings on Ilios, I singled out this moment in particular simply because above all else, it showed his remarkable game sense. It's one thing to be incredibly accurate and hit a stream of successive shots to wipe out a team. It's another thing entirely to be able to position yourself in such a way as to completely shut down an enemy team with your timing and intellect. First, Pine picks off DreamHackCS with that aforementioned accuracy. He then goes on to deal massive damage to the tanks of the Uprising, even taking out Gamsu and Neko in the process. But it is this play right here that shines the brightest. With this play, Pine encapsulated years of Overwatch experience and put on show the countless hours that every single player in the league devotes to scrimming, reviewing VODs, and perfecting their craft. Pine had the game sense to know that Striker had just dashed into an inopportune position away from the rest of what's left of the Boston team. Thus, he was conscious of the fact that there was a high probability of him recalling. Knowing this demonstrates his game sense already, but what's even more impressive is that Pine was then able to perfectly assess exactly where Striker would be positioned upon recalling, immediately connecting with the flash and landing the first shot. Unhappy with the fact that that first shot narrowly missed the headshot insta-kill, Pine knows the Striker just used all of his blinks in attempting to escape and therefore has no movement abilities left. All he has to do is land the final blow, and that's exactly what he does. Asserting himself as the most dominant McCree on Ilios and guaranteeing that no other player in the league would have a performance as technically impressive throughout the remainder of Stage 1. So that's it, that's our list. I hope you enjoyed the rather lengthy video this time around. I quite easily could have just sat back and let these plays speak for themselves, but I figured that some level of analysis was necessary to communicate why certain plays are in specific positions on the list. I'm fully aware of just how many insanely impressive plays didn't make the list, trust me, I know. But I think this is the most accurate portrayal of the most impressive moments throughout all of Stage 1. Feel free to disagree and rip into me in the comments below with what you consider to be the top plays, but regardless, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of this, or if you ever miss a match and need a concise recap of the events that transpired, you can check out the rest of the videos on our channel. As always, see you in the next one.